So if someone, good morning. This is the April meeting of the Outreach and Advocacy Committee. And I posted the link in the old or the agenda in the previous iteration of this meeting. But essentially we, if I can remember, are going over the family engagement, our working plan, and then for new business, the review of testimony, which was pretty short last time, or for our public meeting, and any new points of advocacy. So those 4 things, if you all can hold them in your memory and remind me whenever I forget what we're supposed to be talking about. So let's start with family engagement. Good morning, Representative O'Leary. And actually, yeah, let's start with family engagement because I had some ideas with that. I wanted to run by Emily, and it also might impact our work plan or help reduce the costs. I was thinking and reflecting on conversations from our working session about how to be meaningfully engaged, and then also members' comments about, a lot of people already attend a lot of meetings in the community. I was thinking maybe we can create like maybe a 1-pager for tabling about the family engagement standards to kind of get feedback, but review over, like if you're at an event or something like that, like a pop-up or a market or any community event, and people are like, whether you're passing out books or another table passing out like a flyer, you're kind of like, oh yeah, here are the family engagement standards. Your school engaged this way, how did your school engage you, kind of like a quick, almost 5-minute advocacy feedback point. But then also creating like a kit for, when I say kit, really like a PowerPoint or presentation for members who go to certain meetings. So instead of creating a new meeting, people can take that slides with them, and we have like a set time frame, and people present it, we get feedback, and then from there we'll recruit parents to possibly be engaged. And I'm thinking, because we're attending, novel meetings, different events, we might pull in a different pool of people, or at least expand our recruitment efforts. What are your thoughts about that?
I like that. I think it gets to what we were originally talking about when we were saying, we would do sort of the legwork of reaching out to families, and as opposed to just sending an invitation and expecting them to come, that we would go to them. So this is a way of doing that and providing members with the tools they need to do that. I guess I just wonder if we'll do it. I know some folks will, some won't. So my concern is we'll get uneven results in terms of parents who join, right? So you might have some wards that are over. We're only going to accept, but we'll only get interest from certain wards. So that would be something I think to problem solve. I'm not saying not to do it, just would be something we need to think about. But I like the idea of the kit. I think it makes sense.
Any other thoughts?
I'm thinking that since I know that at some point, since neither you nor Ebony Rose has been to a live public meeting, and I haven't been to a live community meeting yet since 2020. My engagement we get good participation at the community, at the ANC meetings. Probably more people come to the ANC meetings online than they do live, but they can also do this. And so you may have like 60 or 70 people on your ANC meeting, but it's not like where you can touch them or know if they're even listening to what you're saying. And I know when I give my little spiel, you only get 3 minutes at an ANC meeting. And I talk about what we've done on the state board in the last 30 days. that sometimes people ask questions, which really, what bothers me is that most of the time, nobody asks any questions. So I'm wondering if maybe would be more productive going through the schools to the parents, because I know they're having the same kind of a communication problem that we're having.
Representative.
I don't have a panacea for it.
Gotcha. I think we're just going to leave it up to members to decide like what they wanted, how they would like to engage, or what meeting they would want to tap into. Representative Thompson, I know you came off mute.
I think first of all, I do my best not to talk to people before 10 a.m. So if I'm a little scattered, that's part of the reason why my brain is not fully operable yet. I think I want to make sure I understand. So you are proposing that we put together almost like a outreach kit for members around the family engagement, not standards, but council.
Around the topic that Representative Gasol had pulled. So it was the standards, but we also can work away into like just collect general feedback from parents about what they wish to engage in, and then pull that information into the council, because we were trying to also, we picked the standards or family engagement standards since that was something that is in our purview, but then we're also kind of open because we know the nature of like we might pick something that parents are like, we really want the State Board of Education to focus on something else. So we wanted to have like a way to just keep it a little flexible and open in case that the group actually wants to focus on something else.
I think my what's happening in my head is I don't know that we have settled how we're going to structure the council. And I guess I'm wondering, or have probably made the following assumptions. I should put it that way. I've made the following assumptions: that we're still interested in having a family advisory council, that some of the family advisory council will also be part of the selection of what they work on. One of the things we were going to propose to them was that they might want to take up the family engagement standards. I do think the practice of having kind of like on the go talking point outreach type of materials for work that we do is a good practice. I think the question I have is, I'm still feeling a need to wrestle a bit more with like, what is the council? When do we start? Who makes that up? And then, yeah, like those things. So they can kind of help us think about what we take on, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But I do think that's a good practice. Yes. Like yeah.
Can we actually drop, Darren, is it easy to drop the link to the plan in the chat? Because we do have a plan and it does outline what the structure will be and how long it will go and all of that. I mean, I'm not sure what the question still is related to, we're just talking about recruitment at this point, but honestly, I think recruitment is the most challenging part of this. Once we have families, I think we have a pretty good structure in place, and we have a proposed objective even, but as Carlene was saying, we also want to keep it flexible so that there's discussion around, does this resonate, you know? So
I wasn't,
no,
I wasn't implying we don't have a proposal. I think, and that's why I started with my question, because I heard family engagement standards and I heard family advisory council. And so I was trying to clarify if the outreach was around the actual standards or if it was outreach to recruit people for the council, because we honestly will need to do both.
Yeah, I was thinking it was the outreach, the initial outreach is going to be related to the standards because that was the topic selected. And then recruit people from our engagement. One, collect feedback from people because I think there are going to be people who we can get feedback from, and it'll be really good information who may never like come back to this council ever, engage on a consistent basis, but I think they'll have good feedback from that. Also, collecting information of like if you're interested in continuing this conversation or want to be a part of this family engagement that's going to last until like December 2023, we can take your information and then that would be our pool from recruitment. So it's kind of like we're doing a little bit of both. We're informing folks that we have these family engagement standards. How does your school engage you? How do you feel like it's best to be engaged? And we're going to do that just basically in any meetings that we already attend, provide people a kit, but then from there, letting people know, like we plan on getting into a deeper conversation. We would like to have more consistent meetings. Are you interested in participating in that element?
Because the mayor has a parent advisory council, right? Not the mayor, the chancellor.
Yeah, everybody has a, and I think Austin's about to create one. So that's why we focused on the family engagement standards since that was.
But I see, the thing is that when Emily was speaking earlier about the balance of a group, because that was something we've been talking about all the time, because we know the parents in our ward that are really active. But we also know that those parents have a specific activity that they're active about, and that's their particular school. All right, like Whittier has a very, very strong parent group, but they also have a specific need because it's one of the schools in the ward that it has not been remodeled and has really been neglected completely as far as structure is concerned. So that, I mean, I know that those parents are very active in the community, in their own community, but we have different communities in our wards and different needs in the wards. And I'm wondering if the people that are on the Chancellor's Advisory Council are the same people that are active in the communities are all the wards, this is something I don't know about. Are all the wards represented on the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council? Do you know?
I see Representative Thompson has her hand up, so I'm guessing that's.
I mean, I don't think of the Chancellor's Council as assembled by ward necessarily. I think it's a lot. I mean, it gets complicated because you could have somebody whose kid goes to school in Ward 2, but who lives in Ward 7, right? I think listening, I have the following thoughts. Yes, there are other parent councils, but I'm not convinced that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a need for us to have.
Oh no, I agree completely.
Yeah, I think about our Sky Leaves with us today. I think about our Student Advisory Council, and yes, there are others, but our Student Advisory Council has a specific value add to our work. And so, and I think we've done an increasingly good job at building the muscles around like recruitment, but also like engagement and inclusion when it comes to how they participate in our decision making. And so I'm really encouraged in seeing this as a value add. So I think that's why I asked the question around as we think about recruitment or as we think about outreach, is it best that we're doing the outreach for the thing in hopes that will be a funnel for them to come in? Or is it worth us just doing the outreach to recruit the people and then letting them guide the work? And so that's why I asked what I asked. I was trying to figure out how we were thinking about it at this point in time.
No, I agree. I'm not trying to dissuade us at all. And our Student
Yeah.
Advisory Council is a fabulous role model for what it could be for both, and we talked also in the Educator Practice Committee about a teacher council, but we have to start somewhere. So so I guess the question probably, Carlene, that you're asking is, how do we start it? And because I think that's the best question, is how do we get it started, and then we build on that start.
Got it. I see Representative Johnson has her hand up. Skyly.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I do apologize for having my camera off. I do want to reassure you guys that I am listening and I'm tuning in. My question for you guys today is, when we're beginning to reflect and think about like this work plan that we have for advocacy and outreach as a committee, is there room for implementation put in place for that, so that students can become actively engaged with the family engagement and the kind of outreach portion of it? Because as you guys mentioned, we do have the student advisory committee meeting, and I want to make sure that we're being as active as possible. And if student voice and if student needs to, step in and kind of serve as recruitment to families and get directive with active roles within our school and leadership, then I believe that we could do that, and we can also do that effectively as well. So I also think that's kind of a question for us to kind of ponder over.
Yeah, and if I'm not sure if you have any ideas at the moment, but how do you think what will that look like for you all? Or do you want to take it back to the Student Advisory Council and ponder that, so we can make sure that we're not telling you like this is how the Student Advisory Council should engage, but like you all are saying, like this is what we think we can lend to the process of recruitment?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a student advisory committee, I believe that some of our most prime efforts and most engaging ways are obviously like social media, but we're also very active within our schools in terms of leadership. So we can kind of directly speak to the student body or connect with our administration to be able to make sure that we're getting this message across and having this platform in order for like the families to know of like all future events. Hey, please come out. I'll tell my peers to tell their families, and then it can kind of just go from there. And then also we can kind of create other engagement efforts on like social media and stuff too, because a lot of peers are active around our age, and then the word can kind of just go from there, if you guys can kind of envision what I'm saying.
Thank you for that clarity. Representative Gassoy.
Thank you. I actually also wanted to ask you, Skyly, if you could comment on Carlene's proposal about having a kit that has information about the family standards and information about what the state board is planning to do. And if, like there were a few slides or whatever, different kinds of tools that you could use to put together your own tailored communication. Would that be useful, do you think?
I definitely think that would be useful. And then also, not to like throw it under the bus here, but I think a lot of people are like actively engaged and interested in what youth have to say. So the more active that we are, I think the more engagement would come from our side as youth possible. So I definitely do see that as a possibility, and I would love to get started on that if I could.
Yeah, because one thing I'm thinking, I got excited when you mentioned this, is that, maybe students could be more engaged. I agree. And I think also you are a direct connect to your families, right? So the more that students are talking to other students and encouraging them to speak to their own families, that is another way of possibly, hopefully, communicating with families who might not otherwise tune into other forms of communication from various higher levels, right? Whether it's the school or the state board or whatever. So I think it's a really important idea. And so, one thing I'm thinking is we probably need to get Malayo involved in this to help us think about that, about the messaging, and have think specifically about whether there's a different kind of branding that students would find more useful, So is there something we want to have that's differentiated for different, I don't know. I was thinking just for students, but maybe some of us, well, we can do it ourselves too. We can tailor our own. But anyway, now I'm rambling, so I'll stop.
So I think if I'm listen to everyone's feedback. So it seems like it's a piece of, giving people materials to help with the recruitment piece, but then also informing folks that there are family engagement standards. So I think we can balance both. I think we'll work through it. But I do want to honor like Representative Gasol put a lot of work into like a plan. Some of the plan already has a lot of content that can possibly go into any kits that we create, whether it be for students, catered for like a one pager or a larger presentation. And then it also seems like we're gonna need some format for recruiting. John Paul, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify a couple things because OSSI doesn't have family engagement standards. The ones that we're talking about, right, are the ones that are required by ESSA for LEAs, right? So I think we should be very clear that these are not OSSI family engagement standards. These are the ones required by the federal government under ESSA.
Gotcha. And my apologies if I mentioned OSSI.
No, it's fine. I think it is just, yes, OSSI has to make sure that the LEAs know what these are, but it's a federal requirement on LEAs to do this type of thing, transferred through the thing. So and part of the reason that I'm specifically bringing that up now is I just want to be clear that if there were to be state level engagement standards, yes, that would have to come through OSSI to us sort of for approval. So if that's what our goal is, I think we just need to be clear that like the current ones are from the feds. And to Emily's point in the chat, there is no enforcement mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we were to take it a few months back, we were trying to figure out what would distinguish our family engagement council from other, I guess, family engagement councils that are on different topics. So we were like, oh, this is something in our purview, the standards. But then also understanding that too, just engaging from the lens of state board also adds a level of uniqueness too. So that's why we were kind of keeping it flexible. But that's why we ended up picking the topic, because we didn't want to veer off of our mission, but then we also didn't want to just have like this open council that it's the same issues, cycle through over and over again. Representative O'Leary?
Do we have a timeline?
Yes, Representative, and we're actually getting a little behind. That's why I'm kind of like, let's just kind of, and what could be the quickest way is to kind of, instead of creating an event, it would be, if you already have several meetings lined up between now and a couple of months from now, you could present this information, we can synthesize over the summer and then get this council rolling in the fall.
I guess that my question had an answer to it that I wanted to hear. And I think that it would be beneficial for us before school is out, which is a month and a half away, to let the community know that we'd like to get some feedback before school is out. That we're going to be working on it this summer, but we'd like to have some input before school is out in June.
Thank you for that. Representative Thompson.
I have a question, and I think it's for John Paul. It might be for Emily and Fraser too, if they remember or were present then. And I feel like I should have asked it a long time ago. When we launched the Student Advisory Committee, what did that process look like? Like how, yeah.
So it was actually, believe it or not, before my time with the state board. So it's been around for quite a while. I think it's been much more robust in the past like 4 years probably than it was before. But the general concept is when it was launched was to bring that student voice to the state board directly. And originally it was very much just the student representatives, the two at the time, bringing folks together. And we had an application process that all folks do, which is similar to the one that we have now. Although at the time there was a grade point requirement and some other requirements that we have subsequently removed as being not useful, frankly, for us. So that's generally how it's run. I have inserted my own sort of beliefs on student voice, I have to say, into the student reps, into the student advisory committee, in that, like, I feel like I serve as the facilitator of meetings, but other than that, they are in control of their agendas and bringing people and doing all of the things. And I think that's been incredibly successful. I mean, thanks to students like Sky Lee here, who have really pushed that group forward and made it into something that's, national organizations are looking at it and asking our student reps to be representatives. And that's pretty amazing for that work. So, but I think the concept was at the time, back when it was originally formed, was the same sort of thing as we talked about, teacher advisory group and a family advisory group and those types of things. And we've tried different ways in the past of how to bring in those types of groups. At one point, I think this was probably 5 years ago, the board agreed for each member to identify sort of ward captains. And then those captains would have like 3 people. And then those 3 people would have 3 people, almost like a prayer chain or prayer wheel, to get information out to folks that didn't come to our meetings and those types of things. And to a much earlier point of this meeting, when we talked about the different levels of activity by board members, does have a major impact on this, and whether they're interested in doing this type of engagement, and how they're interested, and how their wards work, right? Some wards would work really well with this type of thing. Some wards, do really well with just an email chain because people check that, but some wards don't. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have, is how do we tailor this type of engagement to the communities that we're trying to serve.
And I was also thinking we could possibly tap in, like, when we do the initial, everyone go out and then bring back what you have, tap in, because I was thinking about how do we tap in Representative Patterson with the at-large role, his scope across the city, and then the work that Darren is doing with the equity assessment, to see like, okay, what were the blind spots that we might have had or might have in the constructs of who is interested in engaging in this council, or even, what areas did we miss, or, or does it seem like we have enough people from certain wards, groups, I don't know, to balance things out. So I was also wanted to throw that in there, because I was like, we do ward stuff, but then we also have an at-large rep who has the scope of the whole city, who can kind of like support when possibly, a ward might need more support, or, also with his lens of equity, focusing on, we might be missing something. So, all right, yes, I want to make sure we.
Really quick, I just want to make sure I understand. So are you saying we are planning, so we would do this individual ward level engagement, but then we would have an actual recruitment event? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I'm saying that we would be providing information, recruiting as we're providing information about the family engagement standards, about the topic. And then after the period for ward level engagement, kind of look, because it seems like we want to make sure that we're not missing any groups or have a blind spot. And then also we know it's going to be just an imbalance in the engagement somehow, just because we all have different time constraints. Something pops up, this blows up your whole month. But then tapping in Darren's work with equity and Representative Patterson's role is at large, to see like how can then we plug in the pieces of recruitment to like have a fully flushed group to start in the fall. It's like the Family Engagement Council for the period that you have outlined.
So it's, wooing people basically.
Making sure that we target everyone. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for your thoughts on that one. All right. I want to move to our work plan, with hopes that we can stop at 10, or I think we are stopping at 10. Oh, does anyone have that, or does anyone have that readily available, or you all need that for me? I do have an Excel somewhere.
It's already in the chat.
Awesome, thanks. From Darren, from who?
If you
Darren?
scroll up, it's from Darren, 8:52 a.m.
Thank you. All right, and let me get to our right tab. We are advocacy and outreach. All righty, let me share my stop video. There it is, share screen. Excuse me. Host is disabled participant screen sharing. I need those powers, please. Or somebody else can share it. Thank you. Share. Okay. So for our work plan for State Board of Education, there was an initial request of $2,000. We know we have to bring that down, but that was to host like a family engagement meeting of some sort. But I'm hoping this whole ward level tag onto a meeting or some other form of advocacy can reduce that. One of the tasks we're going to do is kind of like reimagining engagement and kind of creating a resource guide of some sort. One, hosting a panel about engagement. So that we're making sure that we're tapping into to kind of keep us fresh on what are the different strategies for engagement, how to authentically engage, how to move us away from always surveying. There's other ways that you can get feedback. So one, hosting a panel on that. Two, kind of creating a resource guide to kind of almost like not standard operating procedures, but something we can kind of keep adding to processes. I think our board, or this iteration of the board, has really done a great job of standardizing certain processes and documenting those processes so that hopefully future iterations of the board will have those tools and keep going. So basically creating some kind of guide resource that folks can, turn to, of like, oh, how else can we engage? What are some things we can add to our toolbox? Yeah, basically hosting a panel, creating a resource guide, presenting that information to the board to kind of almost like not really professional development, but information sharing that, here are some other ways that we can engage. Maybe, I know, like, was it Darren last time or Alex, provide like all the information related to the numbers in the matrix that, here's the number of calls you've been getting, here's the number of emails, here's from what ward, just some of that information related to like, how are we, are we always having a bunch of panels? Are we doing a bunch of surveys? What meetings or formats do we not tap into to keep getting people engaged? So hopefully that's kind of a task. And I will say I kind of created that as something else to do, but I also think it's worthwhile so that, folks can see that there are other ways to engage. Of course, we have and I need to change the name, Family Engagement Committee. And again, this work is from our bylaws where we are supposed to be hosting like twice a year, engaging with families. And then of course, Representative Gasoy has created a plan for that engagement, and I believe it goes until 2023. We've created that plan, or Representative Gasoy has created that plan. We've shared with board members that plan. I think we're getting a better understanding of like leadership's vision in the sense of like, what do we want to make sure that we're not creating something different, but something complementary to the work of the board. Now we're moving into the stage about hosting an all ward SBOE or ward level engagement. And then the piece about recruiting the council, having a first meeting, and then meeting regularly through 2023. Then the reason why this plan is not stuffed with a lot of items is because I really enjoy the piece about, and I think you all do too, about being available for when moments of outreach and advocacy come up related to issues. For instance, like I mentioned previously, like Representative O'Leary was like, oh snap, the masks are coming off. I think that was like last November. And he was like, we need to put out a statement immediately. And this group sat and wrote it. Thank you, John Paul. We circulated it, got other board members, and we were able to have a statement out that Monday after that mask mandate went down, which was crucial because Omicron hit. So it was kind of like a moment of we're really availing ourselves to be able to launch and be able to execute advocacy around certain issues when we need to. The first issue that I put up there was sexual assault and reporting in schools, but we'll just keep building out. And I'll also talk more about that in our new business portion. But basically, as we'll use this to track our advocacy topics and then what we did with that portion of advocacy. All right, any questions, anything we should add, change? Open to your thoughts. Representative Thompson.
So my initial thought would be to have the, and I know Representative Gassoy said that what we have in the chat is not like the final version. We got to find the, I guess we have to resurface the final version.
I think
all of that should be here. Like those dates should be here in our work plan, I think.
Thank you. I'll add those dates to the work plan.
Just to clarify, I think that is the final version. I just forgot that we had marked it up again. So I think it's just it looks drafty, but I'll make it, I'll just, basically all the information that is there is updated. It just looks like a draft, but I'll put in a cleaned up version.
Thank you, Rep. Gassoy. And then when you do, just ping me and I'll add the dates. Vice President Thompson, when are our work plans due? The final version? Like soon, huh? You're on mute. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought was that work plans would largely were due, and that we really just wanted the feedback around the budget request.
Cool.
Okay. So we could make that decision collectively. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't about the dates and stuff. Got it. It was about the budget. Cool then. So then I'll just still, so good. I'll make sure I do this, but I'm glad it's not like a timeline like pending. But yes, we'll add the dates and then Representative Gassoy will clean up the draft version. Did anyone else have? Yes, Representative Gassoy.
Just a question again about we have this form that constituents can fill out. And for a while I was promoting it. Now I'm not really anymore. It's not clear to me what we do with it. Is there like a monthly roundup of what we get, or, or are we just not getting anything? I guess that's my question. And maybe that's something that staff can answer.
Yeah, I think we came out hot with that form and it went well. And then we did get a roundup for 1 month, but then I don't know if people just haven't been, I know I haven't been sharing it recently. So it could be a bit of both. I doubt anyone has added more. But I mean, maybe Darren or John Paul, do you know if we've been getting any hits with that form?
I don't know specifically, but when Malayo's back on Monday, I'll ask her to look through the form and get it out to the committee, revised report on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, curious.
What are you thinking about? Good.
Oh, I mean, I think it's a great thing to have. I like the idea of it, but I do realize, first of all, even if a lot of folks use it, you're going to get just a lot of different stuff, probably a lot of stuff that's not in our purview at all, or and then just knowing from my own, the input I get from my constituents, there's some things that I feel like I can respond to. I try to respond to everything, but yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, if we have it, we should use it. If we're not going to use it, maybe we shouldn't have it. That's what I'm thinking. So if we are going to have it, maybe we just need to clarify what we want it to be for, and then we can message better about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Vice President Thompson.
Yeah, I think for me, the question is, at what frequency do we want a roundup and report out about it? My impression is it's still being used by the staff as calls come in. That I don't think it's that the frequency has decreased in use. I think it's just a matter of the reporting out. And so can someone please inform Skyly about the form? So essentially, the Advocacy and Outreach Committee developed an intake form as people bring concerns to the board, like the one-off, I'm calling, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, I'm a whoever, and I need assistance. And this was a way to capture and track what we were hearing. I don't think that the volume has changed. I do think the question becomes like, what is the expectation for the roll up and report out? And how do we make that consistent, both in a way that makes sense for our staff capacity, and that makes sense for information being timely and useful to the board. And so I think my subsequent question would be, do you think it would be helpful to have a report to come to this committee on a regular basis? So is it that we as the Advocacy and Outreach Committee are getting a report on a monthly basis? So to help inform, some of the decisions Representative Reed talked about as far as when we adjust or when we respond, is it, and then we filter that for the rest of the members? Is it something that is shared with the board? Like what, I don't think we determined how we want to, again, consistently receive the information. But I think it makes sense and would be helpful too.
Thank you for that. I see someone in the this spreadsheet, so I wasn't sure if they're about to add a task. So I'm going to add something about the outreach form. Do you all have any idea about like what would be a good level of frequency for that, or should staff just determine it?
I would say monthly, because even if we get nothing, that's information, right? I mean, I think it's useful to hear. This month we only got one hit, whereas this last month we got 20, and I think all of that is useful to us. And just to Ebony Rose's question, I think it makes sense for this committee to be the ones to field that, and then maybe if there are issues that come up, whether they are content issues from from the feedback, from constituent feedback, or it's about how it's being used. I think that we could field that and think about how or whether to bring that to the rest of the board.
Gotcha. I think we can add it to our agenda, just how we review public comment to make sure there's nothing we need to keep going with, or, review public comment. We can add that form piece to it. And I think it's also a good reminder, because I know I've fallen off with it. Like I used to, if I was fielding a call or got an email, I would type the form in and self-submit. So it might be a good reminder to maybe the next working session or an email to board members that, hey, this form existed, that we were documenting trends and topics. So I will send that email to remind people that this form, and our student reps could be using it as you all are collecting feedback from your peers or families that you engage with, the folks in the community too. So good time to remind.
Yeah, I just want to clarify thank you, Skyly, for your comment. And I'm not suggesting we should get rid of it. I don't think, the only reason I said that was because if we are not going to respond though, then we shouldn't have it, right? Like we either should be responsive if people are sending us information, we should respond one way or another, even if it's just acknowledging, if that's what's appropriate. But I think it's problematic if it's there. And honestly, I don't know what we have heard, if anything. So that was my only push on that. I agree with you. I think it's a good thing to have overall.
Representative Thompson.
Yeah, so I think my impression currently is that we continue to have a strong but mighty staff who is being responsive to the things that are coming in. They're also doing a lot of the input. Where I think we need to close the loop and we can better use this, we stop doing, was making sure the members are also being informed by this. Because it's not that the information isn't, the information comes in, the staff is being responsive. That doesn't necessarily mean we know and are connected to the issues that they're troubleshooting and addressing. And so I do think this question of like, you know, how do we make sure that we are aware to inform our work and what frequency is the right one. Yeah, but the, you know, it's not like the information just going in. It's going in, it's getting responded to, and then we need to be aware and connected to what's happening.
And then Representative Johnson is mentioning mission plans. Representative Johnson, I'm gonna have to touch base on what a mission plan is. I'm sure it's interesting and I just have never heard of it. But she's saying, is there a way we can set up mission plans for each individual comment, feedback, or is that too much? Like, for example, emailing, sending out a collective response, giving suggestion, etc. So we'll touch base to get, or I'll touch base to get more information from you about like what that comment is. I'm not sure if you're able to come off mute and tell us, but in the meantime, Representative O'Leary.
Yes, I was wondering if to get the word out, when we give our committee reports at the business meeting, I don't know what kind of viewership we have for our business meeting, but I know at our public meeting, we have probably more people watching since we're not doing it live. Would it be possible that when the president gives her remarks at the beginning of the meeting, that she could mention that there's a survey or mention that there's some way that the community can get back to us as far as that's concerned? Does that make any sense? John Paul, I guess you know the answer to that.
Yes, it does. And yes, I can.
And that's great.
And maybe it would come from you rather than from the president, as a matter of fact.
Definitely not me at a public meeting. But I can put it into the script when we talk about the meetings themselves being available video on YouTube. I can also just add in a little blurb about, you know, if you're interested in sharing additional information. We also have an active survey on our website that you can fill out at any time.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you for the robust discussion related to the work plan. In regards to budget requests, so we need to reduce it. I know we're not having a separate meeting at the moment. Representative Thompson, they said budget up to, if it happens after what time? October? Don't worry.
So the way the fiscal year works is it restarts in October. And so I don't, I think the question is for the engagement that we're proposing, when, what we want it to happen. And then like, you know, what is it that we're paying for? I don't want to blanketly say everybody has to just like cut things. But I sent an email, I don't know if that was this week or last week. I think it was earlier this week. With just some of the things that came out of the working session that it sounded like we agreed to. So given more detail as far as requests, if there are things that are happening in October, flagging those so we're not calculating those into the overall number, figuring out if there are efficiencies. And I think some of this is going to be at like the staff admin level where we're looking across and saying, oh, okay, 3 people want to do X, Y, and Z in August. So maybe we can figure out how to roll that into one. So yeah, so that.
Gotcha. So definitely want to bring it down. And it seems like we probably won't be hosting anything in person, or the specific, we were going to set aside for supplies and snacks or food for the family, because we were thinking it was going to be in the evening, that first kind of session. But that would probably want to happen like October. But I'm thinking if the group is okay with bringing it down to like $250, $500 as a proposed, with also thinking that we might be tagging on to some other folks. How do you all feel about that? And Representative O'Leary, I see your hands is up. legacy hang. Okay. Any thoughts about that? Okay. So we're bringing it all the way down. All right. Going to new business. And this is where we review Sky Alley, we review our the public comment that we received, and then we also talk about if there are any new points of advocacy. During the public meeting, I know there was points of advocacy related to school-based mental health, and there were points of advocacy related to, oh, my mind is about to blank, don't do that to me. School-based mental health and librarian. Huh?
Out of school time, right?
Oh, okay. Out of school time. Yes. Okay. And so it's three things: school-based mental health, out of school time, and then librarians. Any follow-up you all recommend from those topics or the public comment?
I think we need to push this mental health, school-based mental health big time, because the system is ignoring it as far as I'm concerned, both for teachers and for students and staff.
Thank you for that, Representative Larry. Students and staff.
I'm following up with I can't remember her name, but the PAVE parent. I was going to meet with the PAVE, like the new PAVE organizer, and then this kind of just got folded into it. So I guess I'm meeting with families about OST and mental health on next Friday. So I will report back on that. But I mean, obviously they're just really active advocates. So I'll figure out like how we can support their work. But I agree with Fraser that we should probably also have our own advocacy plan.
Gotcha. Yeah, Representative Sutter hit on it. I think because I had to run and then came back and sat down. But I think I heard her mention also just on the policy pieces, because she and I've sat in a meeting with Maurice Cook about out of school time. So it's like, yes, a piece of it is the money, but then also like there's certain just policies that could be the implementation, just how things are done could be tightened up a bit. So it seems like Representative Gazzo, if you can temperature check just to see, like, I know they're pushing related to funding, but then I think that when Representative Sutter asked a question related to the policy piece, the parent elaborated. So if you can get an understanding of like maybe if they have any policy points. One that I keep pushing is like, could our school time providers, also be mandated to take vouchers, because that came to me twice last summer. And that's something I know is, yeah. But like that seems just something that could be possibly, if they're, trained to do it, then when that more funds comes in, that might balance out the policy piece. And then just access is a big one for, you have certain community groups that literally are like, we are trying to get kids to our program. We have funding, we just need children. And there have been gaps there. So it seems like an area, yeah, that we can figure out how we can push a bit with community partners. I'm not sure if anybody has any other thoughts about that.
I have two other things that I've got a sort of a plus as far as advocacy goes and outreach, because we have had big movement in the last couple of days in trying to get rid of a swing space that the DCPS had chosen for the 3 schools in my ward that are going to be remodeled, and in moving the stay program, because our schools in Ward, I don't know about your schools, but our schools in Ward 4 are bursting at the seams. We've had just tremendous enrollment progress in the schools in the ward. And the system was like ignoring it. And now, because of the advocacy of the community, the system seems to be listening. And that's a good thing, but there's, I know that we're not unique in having schools in our ward that are 19th century buildings or 20th century buildings, I guess, and need a lot of repairs. And it takes an hour in a day to get a minute's worth of work done. Also, the other thing I wanted to mention was how to get people certified through security and all those other things that they have to go through. We were talking about that in September, as far as nurses and the phantom COVID aids that all the schools got, and the librarians, when the librarians were funded and they couldn't get people certified because it took so long to get people certified. And the same things happen with substitute teachers and with new teachers. And the system seems to say, well, we don't have the people to be able to certify the people who want to be certified. Is that part of our advocacy? It's not a rhetorical question. I don't know if, does that come under our purview in the outreach and advocacy?
Are you saying the certification of getting certification of employees or for full time? I mean, it could. I was also thinking, when we were talking, we didn't kind of put a loop on for the OSTs out of school time. What are you all proposing could be like, is this a resolution? Is this a, let's get our thoughts together on what we think the issues related to OST, like bring it up as the working session, get feedback from other members? What are your thoughts for how we should proceed with advocacy related to out of school time?
Well, we did it with librarians and it worked.
With the resolution?
I think that the resolutions that we put out, the active rather than retroactive resolutions, such as, community college. Now, I'm not trying to value anything, but I think that something that is proactive, a resolution that is proactive rather than reactive, is what we should be focusing on as a board.
Gotcha. So sounds like you might possibly draft something, Representative Thompson.
Representative O'Leary, I'm wondering if this is something that, and maybe it's not, but that kind of fits into educator practice also. I mean, I know you're the chair of that committee, but like, I do think of it as like, when I think about out of school time, it's teachers that work out of school time, it's parents that work out of school time, and it's also people who are hired from outside of schools by CBOs. Like I used to run an after school program, and a lot of my staff were teachers and paras. And so, yeah, I wonder if this could be a joint effort, given some of the.
Oh, I agree. Maybe it's something, maybe the beginning of it could be something like we had the other day, and have a panel on and we could easily get a couple of panels, doesn't have to be a long panel, to talk about how hard it is to get certified as an educator or as a school-based person. I don't know. I'm just throwing it up. Maybe
JP,
Paul.
I just want to check that to make sure that I understand what you're talking about. When you're talking about certified, you're talking about like the hiring process,
Right.
Getting background screened, getting sort of cleared to be in that role, right?
Yes.
You're not talking about the actual certification licensure, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen backlogs. I mean, even within the state board, like it takes forever to get someone
Exactly.
hired.
And there's no reason with all the money that we have in the city that it should take forever at all.
Well, this is one of the reasons that I'm in favor of privatizing DCHR, because I think, it's a struggle to get any work out of them, but that's just me.
So that sounds even more active than a resolution. That seems like, I'm not sure if it's like maybe letter from leadership to whoever would be the DC agency head or DME. I'm not sure. Okay, but noted, because we have 10 minutes. And I know Representative Thompson has a new piece of new business. But I'll put all this in our follow-up steps in the email. Go ahead, Representative Thompson.
So I recognize I don't have a complete proposal or pathway for this, but I testified at the Public Charter School Board hearing. I think that was earlier this week. Y'all know I barely know what day it is since COVID has started. So one of the things that I actually testify about the proposed, well, I guess it's now a fully approved River Seed School, which immediately affects my ward. It will affect other wards. It was the only school that was authorized this last go round. But the Public Charter School Board has placed a pause on new authorizations, and they are starting to do engagement around new strategic priorities for future charter approvals and authorizations. Some of this seems like it will include how they engage with ANCs, which I see as particularly important. I was an ANC. I've worked with a lot of ANCs when it comes to charter approval. I do not know of them reaching out to us as a body around any thoughts we have. I did reach out to President Sutter and ask her if she had heard anything from them. Officially, she had not. But I do think this is something, as we think about like engagement, things that affect our wards, things that affect our communities, if this is something we would want to, if this is a process we would want to be involved in, having some members who are paying attention to, active and engaging in that process could be particularly helpful. My assumption as I kind of look across our committee structure is that either it will fall into, I guess it will fall, I'm not so sure, and I guess I'm asking for feedback if it makes sense to be something we talk about as advocacy and outreach, if it's something that leadership engages in with some type of kind of ad hoc structure, or if there's another committee that it falls into. But it was at top of mind for me going to that meeting, them mentioning that they were undergoing this process, and just having participated with the charter board in a lot of authorizations over the years.
I think absolutely. I'm sorry, I just gotta, okay, something happened with my screen. Oh, I stopped screen sharing. I need to stop screen sharing anyway. Okay. I think absolutely. And I know I happened to reach out to Tamika Bowden, the community engagement person, but I haven't seen like a plan because I was like, oh, sounds something interesting. But I think it'll be helpful to do it as a board versus like a one-off. So I am open to that. Have you seen like an actual, is it drafted yet, Representative Thompson?
I'm not sure. I haven't had any specific engagement around it. And that's one of the reasons I asked if they had reached out to us in the official capacity. I know even with like ANCs, it seems like they've selected some ANC commissions. So I think that was Monday, and I apologize for being, scattered. But when I talked to Chairperson Holmes of 7C, I asked had they been in conversation with them around this, and he was like, no, I don't. I haven't polled all of my ANC chairs yet to see if they've received communication. I did hear Executive Director Walker Davis mention that they had talked to a commission in fire, but I have not seen anything that's like here's all the people we're going to talk to. Here's like what, you know what I mean? Like because
they're about to come off of that hiatus. Like that hiatus has been almost a year. So they're about to start, right? It's reapproving because they're supposed to take a year to, yes, I think we should engage because I think they're going to come off. It's been a year. They put all that stuff on hold or approvals on hold. But then I'm also like, the year is starting to come come up, like starting the end. But I would think maybe could leadership write a letter to maybe, or, email Dr. Walker Davis or whoever and ask like, how can we engage? And then I'm happy to volunteer to participate, however leadership wants to engage. But I think we should definitely be proactive and like reach out to them and say, we are interested. The State Board of Education is interested in engaging with that process for how they're revamping the whole charter approval process and engagement around that. And then go from there. Or should we just like jump straight in?
So I don't know and that's why I started with that. I'm not so sure I have it mapped out what what our approach or the engagement looks like. I just wanted to start from a place of, I see this happening. I suspect other people are also interested. And so wanted to do a pulse check on that first before I was like, yes, we're gonna go, or you know what I mean? Like we're gonna go check on everybody's behalf.
Yeah, no, I reached out to, I had a conversation with Tamika like probably a month or two ago, and another person from PCSB, but it seemed like I was expecting at that point they would have like a plan. It seemed like it hasn't been fleshed out yet. So yeah, I'm happy to volunteer. I'm sure other people are interested, but I definitely think I appreciate you raising the topic because that's something we should be engaged with.
See from Skyly in the chat that the SEC might be interested in some things. Representative Gasol, do you have any thoughts, or does this sound interesting, relevant?
Oh, which to Skyly's comment or to what you all were just talking
about the charter board and any engagement?
I am going to confess that I missed the beginning, so I am staying quiet. I don't want to speak to something I don't know fully, but I will follow up to make sure I am informed.
Okay, I'm happy to give the quick version. The quick question is, the charter board is putting together some strategic priorities and engagements moving forward with authorizations. They paused authorizations for a year for new schools. I'm saying that as the state board, it might actually be helpful if we have some engagement as part of that process. And I'm curious if other members would be interested in that.
If we hosted the engagement?
I don't,
That's what you're
just being involved in the process. Like if we haven't received any official communication about it, I don't know any details around like how it's happening, but just if there's enough interest to start the conversation on behalf of the body of saying like, hey, this is something we also would be interested in engaging around.
Yeah, so they would include us. That's the request, basically.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, that seems logical. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
Yes, we'll look forward to next steps on that. And then quickly, I would like to draft a resolution related to, so I followed up related to the Blue situation. And it's not just Blue, but one, Representative Thompson, you said the goal is to eliminate sexual assaults in schools. I know there was an issue in Ward 2. I had my situation in Ward 8, but I do think the common thread of, regardless of the details, is related to informing the community in a timely manner. And I would like to draft some points related to like, hey, government agencies, like this is how you like just let people know, even preliminary, like we're investigating, we're going to follow up. Just related to that, I know probably Representative Chang might have some from his experience, things that he wants to include. What are y'all thoughts on that? I know you got to jump. Representative Thompson, just a temperature check from leadership. Do you think that would be a draft resolution as a start?
I mean, I'm happy to, I think talking to Representative Chang sounds like a right step. I see John Paul has offered staff support. So I think it's a matter of seeing what we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll draft something and then get staff and then forward it to leadership, because I know you all have a couple points from your conversations with Serena and a couple other folks. Thank you all for your time. Good conversation, and have a good one.